So Greg Brockman, in his demo for GPT-4, in the last 3-4 minutes, is like, let's train GPT-4 as TaxGPT. And people started searching for TaxGPT, and we were already live, and people were using it. And all of a sudden, we saw our user growth explode. Within next 6 weeks, we had 5,000 users. Do you have a pro version of this? Because I own a tax firm, accounting firm, and I want to give it to my team. And I was like, yes, we do. We didn't. So I cold emailed Marc Cuban, Jason Calacanis, David Sachs, and all three of them replied within 30 minutes. I moved to this country with $169. Now I can take a risk. I can bet on myself,
Welcome to Tech Finance. I'm your host, Sasha Orloff, repeat founder and current CEO of Puzzle, and self-professed finance nerd. On this show, we dive into the pulse of B2B fintech, from newly funded startups transforming the office of the CFO to major industry shifts, deals, and partnerships that are reshaping how we think about finance. You'll hear the most important developments, essential analysis, and of course, AI innovations. This show is brought to you by Puzzle and the Turpentine Podcast Network. Let's dive in.
All right. In the spirit of season 2, my guest today is Kash Ali, the co-founder of the startup TaxGPT. One guess what they do. All right. They just raised a round of funding, so I'm excited to help get them to share their story. All right, Kash, you and your co-founder Isabella said you encountered a tax problem shortly after getting married, which led to the inception and maybe the passion of TaxGPT. Can you tell us a little bit more about this? Let's set the tone.
First of all, thank you for having me here. To answer the question, my co-founder Isabella and I, we got married in December of 2022, and towards the end of the month. And after 2 months, in February, I was figuring out like, hey, do we need to file taxes together or separately? And there were 2 other tax-related issues, and it was a very simple, straightforward question, but I couldn't figure out a straightforward answer to that. After searching for 30 to 45 minutes, Googling here and there, and it's like, there has to be something simple, small and simple exist. So that's the inception of TaxGPT. I have no...
What year was this?
This was 2023. ChatGPT was only like few months old. I was using it a lot. I was not getting the straight answer. Even GPT-4 was not released. So in my mind, I was like, yeah, maybe it's just going to be like taxes. In my mind was a very seasonal thing. I was like, yeah, it's going to be, a side project. And I bought the taxgpt.info $2 domain because I didn't want to spend $10. And I launched it and I thought maybe 50, 60, maybe 100 people will use it. And I built it over a weekend, like totally spent 12 hours or something. Use the no-code tools, hardly wrote like 30, 40 lines of code. Like it was exactly a wrapper, like, just making an API call to OpenAI API. And there was a 4 or 5 line of prompt, like in 30 lines of code. And I launched it and I thought, yeah, that's cool. Let's see where it goes. People started using it, like, cool, 10 user, 20, 50, 100. And then an inflection point happened when OpenAI launched GPT-4. So Greg Brockman, in his, tag demo for GPT-4, in the last 3-4 minutes, is like, let's train GPT-4 as TaxGPT. And people started searching for TaxGPT, and we were already live, and people were using it. And all of a sudden, we saw our user growth explode. Like, within 3 days, 500 more members, and like within next 6 weeks, we had 5,000 users.
No,
that's how we started.
But now your website now is taxgpt.com. Is that right?
Yes. There is a story for that.
Yeah, let's dive in. I'm going off script. I want to hear this.
Yeah. When we started developing and I started building in public, I started sharing the stats and usage publicly. People started using you more and more. And there was this gentleman that reached out and he is like, hey, do you have a pro version of this? Because I own a tax firm, accounting firm, and I want to give it to my team. And I was like, yes, we do. We didn't. So we jumped on a call, and within the first 30 to 90 seconds, I explained to him, was like, hey, this is the origin of this. I want to build it. I want to know your requirements. So kind of trying to convince them as a design partner. So long story short, we had a 90-minute chat. And at the end of our call, he was like, I really like how you're thinking about it and where it's going. I want to invest. Are you fundraising? I was like, yes, we are. Ended the call, and to my wife, like, honey, I'm starting my third company. And she's like, here you go again. So long story short, and we got the initial check, and I was like, okay, let's do it. So I cold emailed Marc Cuban, Jason Calacanis, David Sachs, and all three of them replied within 30 minutes. I was like, okay. And now, so Jason invested, the first institutional investor. And when we got the money from Jason, and I was like, we should buy .com. So now we have some money to spare, right? So I was willing to spend like 5 to 8 to 10,000. So I bid on .com domain. So minimum bid that you can do is $200. So I bid $200. So the person replied back $1,200. I was like, oh, this is very reasonable. But I was like, I won't be a Pakistani if I don't negotiate. I was like, how about $500? He said, deal.
That's amazing. You have taxgpt.com. That is insane.
Yeah, .com. And this was April, May 2023. And the guy was really nice. And he was like, I don't have technical ability to build this. So I actually do the, domain, buy it cheaper and sell it, So that's his side hustle. So yeah, it worked out.
That is like incredible. What a great story. And my God, for a .com domain name, I think it's the cheapest I've ever heard of any startup along the way. Okay, so you have this insane domain. You have this sort of announcement on stage that like creates this opportunity. Do you have a technical background?
So as I mentioned, grew up in Pakistan, the family of farmers and entrepreneurs. First one in the family to finish high school, go to college and university. I studied accounting in college for 2 years, but I graduated with a journalism degree. And I worked as a journalist in Pakistan for 5-6 years. And I was always kind of ahead of the curve in that context. The technology is like in Silicon Valley. I was in a very small town, so I was not in a bleeding edge. So I got my first computer in 2005, which was passed down through my cousin. It was a Pentium 2, 64 MB RAM and 3.5 gigabytes. I got my full-time internet, I think in 2008 and 9. And I got into I figured out this idea of, oh, you can make money from online. And there was not a lot of good jobs there. And so I started, getting into search engine optimization, blog writing, and it got into it was really easy to, fool Google at that time with SEO. People used to do keyword stuffing, like 500 keywords, and but it got better and better. I already had the digital side of, publishing background. So when I went into journalism, so that's why I chose to go into journalism. Wherever I used to go, and it's like, oh, can you run Facebook and Twitter? And I was like, yeah, I do it for fun. I was like, how about you run our social media? So that became my specialization. And so I ran the social media for one of the largest television network in Pakistan. When I joined, there was 35,000 Facebook likes and 500 or 600 Twitter follower. When I left after 3 years, they had 3.7 million Facebook likes and 500,000 Twitter followers, and without $0 spent on advertising. So I picked up a lot of related like search engine optimization, social media marketing, video editing. I learned how to write on, captions on images via Photoshop and all of that. So in 2016, I got this unique opportunity to move to San Francisco and do a fellowship program with Wall Street Journal and report on Pakistani entrepreneurs working in the Bay Area. $169 in my pocket, first time ever on a plane, I land in San Francisco. I was like, yeah, that's $170 would be good enough. In Pakistani rupees, it was like 25,000 rupees. So I thought it would be good enough. But thankfully, Wall Street Journal put me in a hotel and they gave me a little bit of stipend. So I was not immediately homeless. And I talked to countless entrepreneurs and engineers, and I got really inspired by like the amount of cool things that they were working on. So as part of my journey, when I was managing this whole social media presence and everything, I dabbled on with HTML, CSS, a little bit with JavaScript. I tried to learn Java. My roommate at that time, he was a software engineer. So we used to plan like we should build an iPhone app and stuff. So I thought like now I'm in the, Silicon Valley. Now I have the chance to, if I want to be completely technical. So I looked at the colleges and I thought maybe I need to go to college and get a 4-year degree. The degrees were super expensive. I was like, okay. So the concept of boot camps was really popular at that time. So I got into a coding boot camp, learned to program from there. And after that, I got an internship at Adobe. Big deal for me because I would really loved Photoshop. And that internship converted into a full-time job. So I worked for Adobe for 3 years. And then I left in 2020. And by that time, I had a little bit of money saved up. And I was like, oh, I have like, I moved to this country with $169. Now I have $50, $60, $70,000 worth of savings. And I can take a risk. I can bet on myself, And doesn't matter if the world goes upside down. I have 1 year of runway and I'm going to make something out of it. Well, I left in February 2020 and the world did go upside down in March 2020. And so my first startup didn't go anywhere. It turns into a little bit of a consultancy. The second didn't go anywhere. So when I was like 3 years into my entrepreneurship journey with 2 failed startup, and I learned a lot from those failed attempts, launching faster, talking to users, all of that lessons. So, and personally, things were great. I met my wife, we got married, and that culminated in that moment, when I launched the product in two days, the MVP, and then it took off.
I mean, that's incredible. You actually have exposure to accounting back at home. You're in Pakistan, in a remote part. You come to San Francisco, you teach yourself to code, you have a great internship, you're learning social media, you're right in the peak of Silicon Valley in the middle. You take a chance, you start something. This opportunity comes up with ChatGPT going live, TaxGPT as a little bit of a personal thing. It feels like it all kind of culminates to this moment. Let's talk a little bit more about the journey of TaxGPT from this fateful call to these cold emails to date. So I want to first talk about what was the original, I guess, like the vision? What was the original product and where is it today?
You log in, you have a text question, you ask the question, and we give you the answer.
Hey, we'll get back to the conversation in a moment after a word from our sponsors.
All right. One of my favorite tools that I use and we use is Notion. Notion is used by thousands of startups around the world as their connected workspace for everything from engineering specs to new hire onboarding to fundraising. Notion has a special offer for listeners. 6 months of free Notion with unlimited AI, value of over $6,000. So you can access the limitless power of AI right inside of Notion to build and scale your company and team with one tool. Get 6 months free of Notion with unlimited AI, along with custom templates when you apply for notion.com/startups/puzzle. Once again, that's notion.com/startups/puzzle. Go for it.
There's a shift happening today in accounting. Startups aren't just building products faster, they're rethinking how they run their business too. Accounting should be stuck in the past. Puzzle is leading a new movement with an AI-first ledger built for speed, automation, and real-time decision-making. No more waiting for month end, no more manual reconciliations, just financials that keep up with you. The future of accounting isn't spreadsheets, it's AI-driven, intuitive, and built for the next generation of companies. Join the movement today at puzzle.io and take control of your future.
That just sounds too simple. Sounds too good to be true.
That's what it is. And so that was the first version of it. It is still that, but it is way more complicated under the hood engineering that is going on. So the first version was, in my mind, taxes were all a seasonal thing once a year. You care about them January to April, and you don't care about them later. There is a one group. So the first version, like I thought we were like probably, completely automate it and build a competitor to TurboTax. That was the first intuition that I had. So I was looking at that, like 5,000 people sign up in 6 weeks, and it's going viral, and people are using it a lot. So my thesis was that as soon as the tax season end, it's going to die down. To our surprise, it didn't. I was like, why are people still using it? So I jumped on a call with those users, like, why are you still using it? And what problem it is solving for you? Turned out accountants, enrolled agents, bookkeeper, tax lawyers, for them, taxes is not a seasonal thing. It's a everyday job. So they were using TaxGPT as an AI co-pilot and assistant. And when TaxGPT does not exist, what they were doing, they were searching on Google, reading 50 different articles, doing in-depth research, summarizing, creating, and forming an opinion on that matter. In TaxGPT, they get the answer within a minute, what they were looking for. So we were saving them a lot of time. And then I went deeper and deeper. So between April and I think December, we did like 200-300 discovery calls. We talked to a lot of tax firms, owners, accountants, tax lawyers. And so that's how we end up on the idea of creating an AI tax assistant for accountants. And we pivoted, became a little bit more B2B focused. We still true to our roots. If you are an individual user, you can still log into TaxGPT and you ask the question related about your taxes. We don't monetize it. You can ask 25 free questions in a year. And so that is still available, but we sell it to accountants now.
So you do it and it helps increase accountants' productivity along the way. What's the benefit or the difference to either me as a person or my tax accountant rather than just going right to ChatGPT?
Yeah. So the biggest difference is that, ChatGPT is trained on open internet, right? We are very tax specific. So we have created a lot of underlying tools and technologies without being too technical. We give you the references right there, right? And the second thing is that we build compliance out of the box. If I ask you this question, imagine just for a second you're an accountant and you have someone's 1040. Will you ever upload someone's 1040 on ChatGPT, right? You won't, right? The answer is you won't. And even the individual user know to not do that. So what we do is we redact because it has your social security, how many kids you have, where you live, all of this sensitive information. So what we do is we have compliance out of the box. We SOC to compliance. We follow all the rules, and we have created a lot of great security mechanisms that we redact all of this information. We don't feed it to any LLM. We don't feed it to any of that. So that's the two major differences. Now, we are building more stuff that are way more differentiated, that is in the pipeline, and we're going to announce soon. We are creating system of records, like accountants are bringing all of their clients' information in there. And so integrations and everything on top of that. So it is, way more differentiated. Like within a few months, you will see that this question won't even exist.
That's exciting. So for those that aren't super familiar with sort of how AI both tactically improves, you've been doing this through a couple generations of AI. And so how do you think about the strategy of TaxGPT with sort of the continued evolution of capabilities of AI in general. So, there was the 3.5, which was like, okay, 4 became interesting. There's reasoning models, there's sort of like deep research models. How do you think about how that impacts or enhances tax GPT over time?
I can just, if really quickly, if I can just quickly touch on the use cases. Now, I try to make it very simple, but it is, it can do way more stuff than this. People are not only asking question and not doing the research and deep research. People are replying to their client emails. And as I mentioned, they're uploading the documents, running through the scenario, planning, even some sort of preparation and review. All of that is going on. So people have built a lot of workflows. People are even replying, accountants are even replying to IRS tax notices with TaxGPT. That's the use case we never thought about, but it came out and people really like it. Different generations of AI. I think when I created it, it was 3.0, then 3.5 came in, then GPT-4 came in, and this was back to back, and then reasoning and, all of that. The way we see it, like every foundational model, you know, improvement makes our product better. And we're not married to any one frontier model. We're not training our own model. That's number one thing. And any frontier model, there are models that perform well on extracting the data. you know there are voice models now, there are reasoning capabilities now. So every new breakthrough help us make our product better. Then the middle layer, our tools that we created, that, as you can see, our secret sauce is, we customize it according to that needs. So it just kept getting better and better.
So what it means is that your customers are seeing value in how you're creating the workflows around the capabilities. And so you could go to one of the frontier models and potentially do something, but you're not going to have the security or the masking and the client protection, the workflows, the memory, and all of the things that help make the job both easier. You get to abstract that away, but you still get all the benefits as frontier models break through. Is that a fair way to say it?
Yeah, it's a fair way to, there is like encompasses tons of the value prop. And but another part that is like it creates the organizational memory, you know that is never get created anywhere else. And when you think about from organizational memory, beyond that, it creates a memory layer on each customer level. So your communication with the clients are much better. So every time you use TaxGPT, your client use TaxGPT, TaxGPT gets smarter about the situation and help it. So people keep unlocking the new capabilities.
One more question, and then I kind of want to dive into some of the fundraising and growth. How much of it is free form prompting that you just let people come in and write their own queries versus sort of you helping transform the prompts to become more accurate or relevant?
I think prompting is really important. We see prompting as basic arithmetic, right? You learn in school, like plus, minus, divide, right? Then you have calculators, then you have computers, but you still need to understand the basic arithmetic to, build on those skills. So number one thing that we do is teaching our users prompting, right? How to get the most out of it. Then we have built on top tools on top of it to enhance those situations. So we do a lot under the hood. We take the prompt, and there are under the hood, under the agent right now, we rephrase it in a bunch of different ways, like think through it, how a CPA thinks, how a tax lawyer thinks, how an enrolled agent thinks. And based on that, we create different tasks, and our agent goes into a bunch of different directions and, grab the most relevant information, and then come back, summarize all of that information, and, present the answer within 45 seconds, 30 to 45 seconds.
So that seems really compelling for still people who know that they need to use AI, tax professionals who maybe have played around and aren't getting the results they want. You just make it easier without having to be a prompt expert. Like you get to see what prompts are coming back successful or not and help curate prompts or help transform prompts into a more effective version than people might do themselves.
Exactly. I think I read somewhere, I might be quoting this story wrong, but Yahoo, between the early days of Yahoo and Google focus was that to make search better, and Yahoo focus was to teach people how to search better, something like that. I'm definitely in the camp like the moment of someone trying out the product first time. So we do a lot under the hood, even they don't know prompting. So that is kind of our use case.
I'm sure you have seen or you've iterated or worked with people. What's one of the most like interesting questions that somebody has asked that stands out to you?
We have answered hundreds of thousands of questions. Uh, there is very few use cases we might not have seen. But one question really stand out, and I think this is the big example of a moment. I was doing the demo with a CPA, and she was helping out a client. And she was like, I know the answer of this question. I have spent 3 hours of research on it. And I was like, okay. So the question was, a client's uncle gifted $1 million in ETF appreciation to the client. The client took that money, did not liquidate it, invested in a startup on a safe note. Now the startup is trying to liquidate it. The cost basis is $600,000. Who's responsible for the tax bill? And I was like, okay, this is an interesting question. And I asked the question, and TaxGPT gave the answer within 45 seconds. And she was like, oh my God, it's like 95% there, right? And then we asked one or two follow-up questions, and within like 3 to 5 minutes, she was like, I'm sold. She's a paid user now. So that's the one star example. And taking this example I took this example, and when this reasoning model came out, I asked this question to DeepSeek. That was a like couple of months ago. It was a big deal, and it was displaying the chain of thought, and it kept going in round and round and round. Like TaxGPT answered this question within 30 to 45 seconds. DeepSeek took 8 minutes, and I have to cancel it, terminate it, because it was so confused. Like, but wait, the client, but wait, the uncle, the startup, the safe note, nuances, right? So this is a star question, as you may say, that I can give an example for. But we have seen very complicated cases.
Yeah, I love that. All right, so I see the poster that I had behind my wall before, Make Something People Want, the famous YC poster. How did you decide to do YC? What was that story?
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is, why would you not do YC, right? I applied 8 times. I got in the 8th try for all of my startups that I did. And I think one of the best decisions we have ever done. We were like not idea stage. We were like fleshed out. We knew what we were building, we had the customers, we have paying users, we have the revenue and everything. But it's just add so much value to our company.
What do you mean? Like, give me a specific. What do you see with the value aside from the money and the poster?
Being in San Francisco and not going to an Ivy League school and not having some sort of big network, you will be surprised how big the money factor can be. So I will give you another data point. In my 5 years of raising money, I pitched to 800 investors, and I heard 750 no's. So, because early stage company investing, you know this better than me. People look at the stamps, and people look at the team and idea. They're like, who's this guy with a weird Pakistani accent, claiming to build the tax GPT? So, I would say as it is that nobody took us seriously before YC, and then nobody take us not unseriously after YC.
Well, a lot of people have taken you seriously now because you just announced that you raised $4.6 million. So the story that you were reading back in Pakistan before you came to San Francisco is now you. So tell me about the fundraise.
I think since we had the market pull in terms of like our people, our user were searching for us. We were not searching for a problem. People who had problem were searching for us, and it's still the case, by the way. One of the most interesting fact about TaxGPT, we have 90% of our leads still come through inbound sources. People find us. So it was a pretty easy with the YC network, the type of, and I think beyond money, like if I answer, like you just see people accomplishing things in 3 months, and you get just like, and you're very familiar with the group partners pushing us to the new limit, and people like, yeah, I mean, if Gary is saying this thing, he knows definitely more things than me. And you go and you fail faster. Some work, some doesn't work, and you come back and you have this supportive community, like in your group, like you have 8 or 10, you know other companies are going through the same struggles, and some things are working. So I think that's community aspect is the best part.
And how did the recent round of funding come about? Did you go out and fundraise again? Was this part of your 800? Your 810 finally said yes, or is this a new round? Was this a demo day?
It's before the demo day. We were pretty much done before the demo day.
Nice. And how did you pick? I mean, I saw the announcement was Rebel Fun and Mangusta and YC. How did you choose who were the right people for you?
First of all, incredibly thankful for people who are willing to bet on us and see the bigger vision, and adding, helping out with hiring, or making the intros to the potential customers, and people who also believe on a very long vision of this company, because we are still in infancy. In a way, we have very strong early product market fit, but we see this like the problem that we're solving, like it's an AI copilot for accountants right now, but our ultimate goal is to make an AI copilot and assistant for everyone. It's very similar trajectory that we're thinking about is like Canva and Figma made everyone a designer. I believe that everyone need a tax assistant. And when I say tax assistant, it's not only for 3 or 4 months when there's a tax season, because I also believe that tax planning is life planning, right? So the most people that need it the most right now are accountants, but there are tons of people. We still have like 25,000 registered individual users that use TaxGPT during the tax season.
It's an interesting story. Well, I guess that ties into a little bit of there's an excitement, but also a bit of an uncertainty about how future models will perform and what the capabilities of AI will be. And so if we think about the advancements of AI over the next 5 years, how do you envision the role of technology transforming tax research or compliance or advisory or whatever? Like paint a picture of the future state of this vision you just talked about, where everybody has this life planning, tax planning.
Yeah, I think I would go beyond even tax and overall say accounting, right? And a lot more things about accounting. So if I rephrase this question, if because I get this question get asked a lot, like what is the future of accounting in the next 3 to 5 years, right? For professional to like all the way to individual, like businesses and individuals, I I usually ask this question back. It's like, do you know what's the first known written human name that we know? That is a Sumerian gentleman accountant named Kushum. So accounting is very old, right? Over the years, we developed pen and paper and calculators and computers and internet, and people always thought that accounting is going to be obsolete. it's not going obsolete anytime soon, right? As a matter of fact, a lot of accountant, we talked to them, thousands, hundreds of them over the years, and they were like, just get rid of this, all of this manual work. I don't want to do that. So that is definitely going away, right? And there is literally a shortage of accountant in the country. There are 340,000 less accountant that US need. There is 75% of accounting industry is close to retirement age. In last 6-7 years in a row, there are less students that are choosing accounting and being a CPA and tax professional. Choosing less and less people are choosing this profession. So it's a huge opportunity for, and all of these market pressures are creating like companies, publicly traded companies are making $50 million mistake in their quarterly earning. I'm talking about Lyft, right? There are some examples from that. It is, I think there is a county in Chicago that they cannot issue the budget to repair the roads. That is a health hazard because they don't have enough qualified accountant to issue that budget, right? Like properly, compliance wise. So there is way more stuff that accountants are going to do. It's not going anywhere, but a lot of the grunt work, a lot of the manual step is going to get automated with AI. So that's where I see it's going. The second part of this thing is people are getting smarter and smarter about their financial situation. I think Peter Thiel knew about investing through their Roth IRA in early 2000. Now it's people who are in on financially savvy, they still know about it. They know about it, but not majority of the world knows about it. So that's why you need an AI, personal AI tax assistant. When it comes to businesses and companies, there was this moment in the history that every major company had a headquarter in Ireland, right? So who created those strategies, right? Big four consultants that charge millions of dollars to Apple and the Google of the world. And eventually, I know that they curbed it, they created the legislation and everything. But there is a tons of small businesses that don't get those benefits, right? So, and having a assistant, AI assistant, and with the human coordination, those small businesses can have the same benefit. So for that reason, I'm really big on this. And if I zoom out, the biggest problem that we are solving is Americans spend 6.4 billion hours annually on tax related issues. And this is a White House report that I'm quoting. And the inefficiencies in the tax system cost US economy $262 billion a year. So it's not a small problem that we are trying to solve. So it's not going, unfortunately, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. There are compliance issues, there are regulatory issues, around it. I don't think IRS is ready to accept tax filed by an AI anytime soon. They're not prepared for that.
Do you think that's a future that's going to happen?
I think IRS, I don't know if Doge killed that program, but last year they did they did a pilot of in 12 states of personal tax filing product. I believe that personal tax filing should be automated, right? And so that's probably going to happen.
At least for most people. The majority of people have very simple stuff. If you're maybe a startup founder with safes and then various integrations and funneling it through a Roth, and maybe you have QSBS, like there's can get complicated, and you become an LP, and you have K1s, and this stuff can get complicated. Then you're married, then you get kids, and it can get complicated, and that's why I think TaxGPT can be so powerful.
And Augusta rule can kick in, and all of the other stuff. So
taxsheltergpt.com is coming next.
I agree with your statement on majority of the simple tax return should be automated, and it's going to get automated. Like 48% of American, and this is when I was looking at the data 2 years ago, they like that's around 72 million returns. They have last year 1040 and a W2. super simple and straight. Then there is an explosion of 1099s with crypto investment and stock investment and side hustles and all of that. So for that, it's going to take time to get there. And then the example that you gave, like high net worth individuals with bunch of a lot more complex, and then real estate investment, and then the companies and the payroll and the sales tax and bunch of other stuff. So there is a lot more there to do. So it's going to take a minute.
Yeah. All right. For accounting firms who might be hesitant to adopt an AI solution, what is your advice on how to embrace TaxGPT?
Well, start using TaxGPT, I guess. I think previously we used to get this question a lot, like a year ago. They already know this. They are embracing the technology. A year ago, there was some questions, like some concerns, like is AI going to replace me? Now they're like embracing it. It's like, no, it's making my life easier. So there is this human AI type of partnership is evolving very nicely. I think we can say accounting and taxes is the model industry where we can see the productivity gains so clearly. And after, I would say, software engineering, like Cursor and Windsurf and all of those folks. So yeah, so I start using TaxGPT. We are at taxgpt.com, and reach out to us, and we will be happy to set you up and increase your firms and your accountants and your team productivity 5 to 10x.
I love it. Kash, thank you so much for joining me. Appreciate your time.
Really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. And good luck with TaxGPT. It's what a great name. I love it. All right. Bye, everybody. See you next episode.
Thanks for listening to Tech Finance with Puzzle and Turpentine. If you got value from this episode, please share it with anybody building or funding the future of technology. And please leave us a review wherever you're listening and tell me about what you want to hear more of. If you're looking for accounting software you'll actually love to power your company, check out puzzle.io, the modern accounting platform for the AI era. Tech Finance is part of Turpentine, the awesome podcast network behind Econ 102 with Noah Smith, Turpentine BC, Complex Systems with Patrick McKenzie, and so many more.